Beyond 3D.
Hi, Matt here, and welcome to 2016. Beyond 3D is about giving you guys information that we consider to be pertinent, and that means looking at the news, studying what's going on out there, and being able to ascertain who's telling the truth and who has an agenda. Quite frankly, what we're seeing is a lot of agendas out there, a lot of people with a lot of reasons to keep us bound, to keep us constantly at war with each other, in conflict and strife with each other. What we have to do is learn a few things about getting beyond all of that. One of the things you can do, one of the things that you really need to look into is meditation. I'm not talking religious, I'm talking the spiritual aspect of things. You have to understand that you are consciousness, having a human experience. You have to understand that there are beings of orders, many different orders, that it is in their best interest, so to speak, to keep you bound, to keep you here, not to allow you to advance or to evolve. The way around that is meditation. The way around that is stillness, and the way around that is awareness. So, those are the things we need to discuss. Those are the things we need to constantly be vigilant about. Meditation, stillness, awareness. Meditation is not a situation where we're going to live in a cave or in some mountainous area and do nothing. We should be able to meditate in the middle of the cities. We should have enough stillness and awareness to be able to see the game that is being played on a grand scale and all the minute details, right down from heavy-duty world governing, continental governing, like the Eurozone, like the America zone, which is going to be Canada, the United States, and Mexico, right through the Asian areas, the African continent, and the countries and what's going on there as well. When you see how you are being governed, you should basically be able to say to yourself, okay, I recognize the game. What do I need to go forward? And then the question becomes, what am I going forward for and or to? What is the spiritual evolution people constantly talk about? It basically comes down to this. When you meditate, when you contemplate, when you are silent and observe, when you become a witness, you really start to see the game for what it is. Fun. A play. That's what it comes down to. We can talk and wax philosophic about every single planet out there, all the UFOs, the Pleiadians, the Draconians, the Anunnaki. We can go on about that over and over and over again. It's not going to get you anywhere. What you really need is stillness and awareness, and to meditate. Because then when you hear the information, it makes sense to you. You start to see many different orders of beings have an agenda to keep souls, to keep other conscious life forms bound, in check, not out there exploring. If you remember that, you will find that the game becomes easier and easier. You will find that you start moving through levels like you've never moved through them before. Forget about the magic pill. Get out there and just do the hard work. Years, decades, learning, exploring, and growing. But don't stop moving forward.
Beyond 3D.
Welcome, one and all, to 2016 and Beyond 3D. Clint, how's it been going?
I am awesome.
Oh, so am I. I had a really good holiday break, and except for one thing There's always one little complaint, but everything else was positive. The one complaint was, I don't like 37 degrees Celsius or 40 degrees Celsius on Christmas Day.
Boo-hoo.
Yeah, boo-hoo. It's just wrong. I cannot get used to that for the life of me, but enough of that, I digress. Welcome to 2016 and Beyond 3D, and we're really proud to be able to continue doing this for this year. We're really looking forward to this year, as a matter of fact.
You and I just sat down a little while ago and wrote a nice big wish list, didn't we?
We did, and we're going to get it done, too. Tell you what, there's a lot of interesting things going on around interesting people, which most of the guys would know about. They've heard them speak before. So coming up this year, this season, I believe we're going to be able to get some really good people in, and we're going to talk to people that will be able to give Australia and our audience worldwide, as well as Australia, a really good insight as to what's going on out there.
Matt, what was your highlight for 2015?
It's very hard to think of because I thought there was a lot. Just one. I would have to think about that for about give me 30 seconds and I'll be able to give you one. I literally do an Indian technique, which means when you go to bed at night, burn everything down. As a businessman would say, you burn down your factory. You get rid of it all. It no longer exists. And when you wake up in the morning, you start again. So I have to think about what happened in 2015 to be able to do something like that. So I'll think about it, and I'll give you an answer. It's not Star Wars, I'll tell you.
No, it's not Star Wars.
Because I haven't seen it yet.
I've taken my children twice already. And can I just say, if you go and see it a second time, you do go in with a different perspective, and you do have the opportunity to look and listen to what's being presented to you, and you can look at it in a totally different way. That's all I'm going to say. People that have seen it more than once will know exactly what I'm talking about.
I think for 2015, what is the highlight? I think my daughter getting through 6th grade and now going to high school, I think, is a major highlight as far as I'm concerned.
And both our children go to the same school too, don't
Absolutely.
They do. And we only discovered that after we met each other.
Yep.
Which was good.
Yeah. That is a major milestone. You watch your kids grow up and you just see what's going on and you just say, wow, that's really great.
I think for me, it would have to be that I hit rock bottom 2015 in spiritually in myself. And just like the phoenix from the ashes, I actually came back bigger and stronger in myself. That would have to be the highlight. And it forced me to look at the world differently. We have Michael Soos popping in later tonight, and he's going to talk to us all about
TM.
Transcendental Meditation.
Absolutely.
I had I wouldn't call it a spiritual awakening. I think I had more of a consciousness awakening, and those two can be thought of as two different sides to the same coin. I had a bit of a consciousness awakening towards the end of 2015. Whether or not it was the fact that I was being open and more subjected to the people that we seek in regards to Beyond 3D. I don't know what it was, but I did have a shift in consciousness. I did make a conscious decision to stop and be still and to be more aware of my surroundings. And I've like you just said a moment ago, I pushed my attention onto my children and decided to focus on improving myself so that I can best guide them.
Right. Yeah.
That was my highlight for 2015, I'd have to say.
That's a very good one, actually. It's necessary, and I think everybody's along that path. Anyone that listens to a show like this, all the people that we want to deal with are the people that are evolving mentally, evolving physically, evolving spiritually. What we're basically doing is we are trying to get to the point where we, as a people, as a community, look at the fact that we are just so much more, and there's so much potential that we have that can take us, for lack of a better term, to the stars. That's literally what we're trying to do here. And we see that there is a game being played, and that game can be fun. It can be frustrating. But in general, it is a game. And there are some people who are taking the game a bit too seriously, especially now with what's everything going on in the world.
Some people like to break the rules.
A lot of times they'll break the rules or bend the rules to their will, and we deal with it.
And they're the people that like to make the game about them.
Yeah.
Service to self versus service to others.
If it were just service to self, you can probably deal with it, but it was like service to self and you have to bend to my will. I don't like that aspect of it. That's the religious aspect of things to me. Do it the way we want it done, or you're out in many different ways.
That's being elitist.
It's elitist, yes. But also the fact of the matter is this is the way religion has been over thousands of years.
Can I just stop for a second?
Yep.
You were talking about listening to this show, how it changes a person, listening to a show like this. I'm no Surgeon General, but I am going to put a disclosure warning out there. If you choose and you make a weekly choice to tune in to our show, Beyond 3D, or to download the podcast,
Right.
My Surgeon General warning is to you, you will not be able to maintain your same existence and filter out the information that we present to you and not expect your life to change.
Exactly.
It's not going to happen.
It's with medicine, almost like a medicine for you. You may not understand it when it's going in. You may not like the fact that it is going in, but it will have its effect.
And it's not a placebo either.
No.
I can tell you that for 100%.
Not even close to being a placebo.
No.
And so this is what this show is going to be about going forward. We are going to make sure the information that we provide to the listener, to you guys out there, is the best possible information you can have.
Beyond 3D.
What is happening out there with this show is that we are providing our listeners with a lot of good information, and we consider them family. We want to give you guys the best information, and what it's like when you go to a doctor, there are certain medicines a doctor will give you because you have certain things going on in your life. They may not taste good, they may not be palatable in any way, shape, or form, but the fact of the matter is you need them. We're providing medicine for people out there.
And also, I'm laughing while I say this. Last year, we were very blessed to get to speak on 3 separate occasions to Dr. Richard Allen Miller, who I can quite confidently say is part of our stable, going to be part of our regular stable of guests internationally. Matt, I was re-listening to the last interview we did with him, which was 3 of 3. I was listening to that this morning.
Right.
I was reacquainting myself with that last interview we had before I came in here tonight. And I heard so many different things to me, which was like listening to them for the first time. And I stopped and I went, I do not remember him speaking about these topics of conversation because there was so many of them and they were coming through so thick and fast. I remember at the time writing them down and I just couldn't. My hand was too sore, too tired because the information and the ideas he was presenting were so vast and incredible that I reacquainted myself with them this morning. And I can honestly say, everybody, if you get an opportunity, go back through season 1 and download those podcasts.
It's worth it.
It's worth it. It's the information he provides is things that we've talked about throughout the last year, 2015, and with other guests as well. And Michael, who's going to talk about Transcendental Meditation.
Yes.
Dr. Richard Miller touched on that stuff as well. So he was a fantastic guest that we had last year. And Rick, if you're listening, thank you very much for your time you gave us last year. That was amazing.
Absolutely. So we got a copy of Nexus magazine for December and January 2015-2016, and there was a lot of interesting topics on that magazine.
Just reach across and pass it over to me.
Yeah,
Thank you.
no problem. And I'm really excited about the fact that couple of things. Number one, the fact that he is getting back into talking about the mysteries around the Sphinx.
Sorry, when you say he, we're talking
Duncan
about
Duncan Rhodes, and the Nexus magazine editor, back into what the mysteries, the subterranean mysteries underneath the Sphinx is one of the headlines there. The other thing I'm excited about for Duncan and for Nexus magazine is the conference coming up, I believe, in June.
Sorry, I was just opening the magazine. This conference that I'm looking at was for the DVD you could purchase for 2015.
That's the DVD you can purchase. Yeah, they're working now on the guest list and everything for 2016's conference, and I'm really looking forward to that. And if things go the way we want them to go, we will be able to do a lot of reporting on exactly what goes on at that conference for Beyond 3D, which I'm looking forward to.
I dare say we'd be able to go up there and do some interviews, and we'll be able to
Absolutely.
play them during the course of this year.
Absolutely. That's what it's about. That's the goal. That's one of our goals for this year, and that's what we want to accomplish. So we will work that out with Duncan and his people.
We're coming for you, Duncan, so just be
Literally.
prepared.
And so that's great as far as we're concerned. We want to get the good information out there, and when anyone hits these Australian shores, I think it's very important to make sure that we here in Australia get to hear what they have to say, because a lot of times, being that we are at the bottom end of the Southern Hemisphere here, we don't get a lot of the information that other people would get in Europe and in the Americas per se. So we want to make sure everybody down here is on the same page.
Well, you and I trawl through the alternative media, and you and I trawl through the alternative media, and we also are obviously subjected to mainstream dinosaur media on a regular basis, which does not provide the populace with the information they need to grow.
They don't.
In fact, I'd go as far as saying is mainstream media that reports on the news goes above and beyond to degenerate your brain into not thinking openly and to keep you repressed and feeling negative and feeding you with information about what's going on around the world to not help you grow, to not help you vibrate or resonate at a higher frequency.
That's the goal. I believe that it's all about
control. I'd say, Matt, control and keeping the sheeple underneath the thumb of information.
It's a control mechanism. There are many of them in place. If you take a look at what's going on in the world, there will be some information that can really help you, and you'll look at mainstream media, and you will be bombarded with which Hollywood person or which new music star is doing this, that, and the other. And what you'll see now in the mainstream media at this point in time of the year is all of these guys are on vacation in the Caribbean. So it's who's on Mr. Abramovich's yacht sailing around St. Bart's.
Who cares?
That's what the mainstream media will be telling you. They won't be giving you the information on what is actually going on as far as the military industrial complex, what is going on out in space right now, what new innovative breakthroughs from a scientific standpoint has happened in the world that can actually affect you and allow your life to become better. You don't need to know that. All you need to know is what Britney Spears or what any of these other people are doing out there. That's what they want to give you.
And Matt, from a point of view of, you can't do anything to change what's already been and gone if it's happened.
That's it.
If it's happened before you find out. So, the stuff that's going on out there in the world, we won't hear about it for another 30 or 40 years. And by that stage, it's old.
Yeah.
But it's already been and gone. You can't do anything about it. So let's cloud your mind with the new Britney Spears song. Let's cloud your mind with the new... Let's cloud your mind with the new Taylor Swift video clip, or...
Exactly.
What Kanye is up to, or KK.
That's what matters to people.
And
Not to some people, but a lot of people. There's a lot of other good things going on out there. And I heard at this station, I heard this morning a couple of the guys discussing what's going on with the Second Amendment in the United States, and how there are some people who they believe to be quite educated that are prepping for civil war. That's a very important point, and those are the kind of things. And now that you mentioned it, actually, Dr. Richard actually talked about that as well.
He talked about everything.
You can bring up things. You can go back to that 3-part interview, and you can get so much information. It's amazing.
I cannot emphasize enough about getting our listeners to open those podcasts and really go through them and listen to them again and again and again.
We'll put the podcast links up on the Facebook page.
We'll put them up, because he touched on everything, like a massive web of the universe, and all information over the course of 3 shows. He scattered out stardust of specks of information, and you and I were like kids in a candy store. As fast as we were picking them up and writing it down, he was throwing out twice as much, and we couldn't keep up. And like I said to you, I re-listened to those podcasts, and I just went, I don't even remember him talking about that at the time.
Right. That's it. Well, we need more of that. We need to bombard our listeners. We need to bombard the public with all the good information that's really going to help them go forward. And that's what we're here to do. So we're going to start by looking at something that's a bit different from what we just talked about, but it's not. It's something that is necessary. And meditation is talked about in many different categories. There are many different types of meditation, many different forms. But what happens is, in the mainstream media, it is supposed to be something that calms you down, calms the mind down, calms the brain down. Meditation can have that effect. But the main thing you meditate for is because it clears away the dross and the cobwebs in your head. And it allows you to really become aware of what's going on around you at a very subtle level. The more you meditate, the more subtlety the world around us takes on. You really start to notice things. And so what we're going to do is we are going to bring in a friend of ours, a person who edits up our podcast that we talk about all the time. And he is going to talk to us about transcendental meditation.
And we have many times stopped here on air and thanked Michael.
Yep, we have.
For the effort he does put in. Michael is a volunteer, and Michael does volunteer, and he edits up our Beyond 3D shows so that you can download them and listen to the podcast.
Yes.
And what listeners don't know is before we actually do come into studios and record, Michael will grab us out in the corridors and he will just give you so much information about this and that, and this is a great opportunity for us to get him in here because he is so incredibly knowledgeable on transcendental meditation.
He is, and a lot of other things as well. He has an engineering background, so it's not just the spiritual aspect of things. He has a scientific bent to him as well. It's well-rounded.
Oh, he's scientifically bent, all right. That's an understatement.
And it's just a lot of fun to listen to because the knowledge is there and it's coming from a place of experience as well. It's not just book reading. He has experienced this thing. He has done the meditation. He has done a lot of the scientific research.
And I don't transcendental meditate. I haven't had the opportunity or the time to do so. And this year I'm going to make sure that happens. I did keep to one of my... Last year, 2015, I had a New Year's resolution. It is a private and personal one, and I actually did stick to it and made it happen. So don't think that, no, it's all too hard. Put it out there to the universe, make it happen, and, attention goes where energy flows, and, anything's possible if you can put your mind to it, Matt. But I want to give you some credit, Matt, because you do practice transcendental meditation yourself.
I practice many different forms of meditation, and I'm constantly learning, and what I found is they all complement each other.
You're also a parent, so you know how to turn off your selective hearing too when you want to.
Yeah,
that's a form of transcendental.
Do something like that.
That's a form of transcendental meditation.
Especially when they, what they do, they get right up in your face, and they won't leave you alone. Then you just submit.
Oh, you're lucky mine doesn't talk to me.
Oh, gosh. It's amazing sometimes. But anyway, with meditation, especially, I think it's very important for people to understand. Anytime somebody says meditation to you, you can meditate in 5 minutes.
You can meditate in the car at the traffic lights.
Absolutely. It is not something where you have to find an hour or 2 hours during the day. If all you can find is 5 minutes, if all you can find is a minute and a half, do that. It's worth it for you. If you could have a deep feeling of meditation for even a minute, it's worth it. Because honestly, when you first start a meditation practice and you sit down for an hour, out of that hour, 59 minutes are going to be thought forms going through your head anyway, and then all of a sudden you're going to get that 30 seconds of awe. And then all of a sudden you'll recognize that 30 seconds of awe, and you've stopped meditating. It takes time, it takes effort. So, as little time, if you have a minute, use it. If you have 10 minutes, use it. If you have 2 hours, use it.
In regards to water being a viable resource and a very special resource here in Australia, people aren't going to like the fact that I turn around and say, if you like to have a shower, and you're like me, I like to sit down on the shower, on the floor, and I turn the lights off, and I will have a 1 minute moment where it's not necessarily transcendental meditation, but I will turn my brain off and just be in that moment in the shower and wash the day away. If you can visualize washing your day away, that is having a transcendental meditation experience on some kind of level.
It is. It most certainly.
And it's as easy as that. If you can have a shower, you can meditate in the shower.
Absolutely. It's interesting because everyone's looking for, I guess, support. There are guided meditations out there, but after a while, it's like the guided meditation aspect, it's a catalyst. It gets you going. After a while, you have to let that catalyst go. You do not use it as a crutch. You then just get into your practice. So there's a way to get, once you're there, you don't have to worry about how you got there. You're there.
The beautiful thing is it's self-sustaining too. Would I be right in saying that? So it finds its own time to do it. It makes time.
You will find the time. And what will happen is in the beginning, it's fun. You will find that the antithesis of that is trying to stop you. And you'll recognize it trying to stop you, laugh at it, and do it anyway.
And that is also having a moment where your consciousness is open and you're making a conscious awareness moment that you're aware that there are forces that are preventing you from wanting to meditate. And once you're open and you're aware of that, then you can do something about it.
You can.
And you're in control of that energy.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So without further ado, we will introduce Michael, and we will get into a little bit of a discussion on meditation. We'll get into a little bit more of a discussion on exactly what's going on in the Indian traditions along the lines of the Vedas and the Upanishads. So stay tuned.
Beyond 3D.
Welcome back, everybody, to Beyond 3D. Welcome back, Matt.
Welcome back, Clint. It's a pleasure to be able to talk to this next person because we know him very well. He's around the studios all the time, and he helps us with our podcasting. But he has a lot of knowledge on a number of subjects. And his name is Mr. Michael Soos, and we appreciate the fact that he can take a little bit of time out and talk with our listeners here because we believe the information he has to say is very important. So, Michael, welcome.
Pleased to be here. Thanks for inviting me on your fantastic show.
Michael, have you had a chance to check out Star Wars yet?
No, not yet. I think I'll watch it about 3 months down the track.
You're another sufferer. I haven't seen it yet either.
Suffering is a choice, Matt. I've seen it twice.
I will see the movie.
I've seen it twice.
I'll definitely get there.
It's very good.
I believe you. And I had a friend say, yes, the lady is a force to be reckoned with, so to speak.
As you like to use the favourite word, literally.
Literally. Indeed.
Michael, what can you share?
Well,
I'm not going to ask that question. That's like an
open-ended question.
I know not to ask that question to Dr. Richard Allen Miller, and I know not to ask that question to you either, Michael. So we're talking transcendental meditation today.
Yes, that'd be good. And I think it'd be a good place to pick up on your reference to Star Wars. And as we all know, it was founded by George Lucas. And actually, he spent 2 years writing the first script. And he saw Rupert Murdoch to get $50,000 way back in the early 70s to fund himself while he could write the script. And he gave it to him. And also, George Lucas said, I'd like to have the rights as well. Could I cut my director's fee of $1 million for the first movie down to $500,000, and could I have the rights? And Rupert Murdoch thought, oh yeah, it's not going to go anywhere, you can have the rights. And that was that story. Anyway, to get back to the main point, one of the points with respect to Star Wars, as we know, one of the characters in the Star Wars franchise is Darth Vader, and that's spelled D-A-R-T-H and V-A-D-E-R. Now, George Lucas learned Transcendental Meditation in the early 70s, and it seems as though he must have read a lot of the Veda and Vedic literature. V-E-D-I-C, Vedic, comes from the word Veda, V-E-D-A, which is a Sanskrit word which means knowledge or light. And I say that because it seems as though he's developed some of the characters and some of the story from the Veda and Vedic literature, and I think that's why the franchise has become so popular. Anyway, one of the characters is, as I mentioned, Darth Vader. Now, it seems as though he's derived the word Darth from the word dearth, just one extra letter in the word dearth, D-E-A-R-T-H, and the word dearth means lack of, or, absence of. And as I mentioned before, the word Veda, V-E-D-A, means knowledge, and it's pronounced in exactly the same way as V-A-D-E-R, the name of the character. And as I mentioned before, V-E-D-A means light or knowledge. And so Darth Vader actually means lack of knowledge or lack of light.
Can I also add to that, Michael, that for a long time they used to say that the Dutch word for father was also Vader. So if you're going to use that translation as well, lack of father, the history of Star Wars was that Anakin was immaculate conception. So therefore he also had a lack of a father.
Yes, it works in so many ways. Yes, this is the thing with Sanskrit too, that if you read some of the Vedic literature in Sanskrit, there are hundreds or thousands of meanings in the one expression. You could spend days just sort of, unraveling what this very, very succinct language can give you. Another character in the Star Wars franchise is, as we know, Yoda. And Yoda is the font of wisdom, the font of knowledge. And I remember this one scene where Luke Skywalker needed to get the starship. What do they call those starships things? Those things that you run around in?
X-Wing?
The X-Wing.
X-Wing, yeah. He had to get the X-Wing out of the mud. I think it was an X-Wing.
On Dagobah, yeah.
And he had to get it out of the mud. And he tried to use his Jedi powers to get it out of the mud, and he couldn't do it. He said, Yoda, I can't do it. What's wrong, And Yoda encouraged him, and then...
Size matters not?
Size matters not.
Judge me by
Try.
my size.
There is no try, there is only do. Anyway, so eventually he was able to levitate the aircraft out of the spacecraft out of the mud. And so Yoda seems to be the font of wisdom, and also in the Vedic knowledge there is this thing called Siddhis, S-I-D-H-I-S, or sometimes spelled S-I-D-D-H-I. It means power or perfection. And one of the perfections is to levitate, either levitate yourself or levitate something else. And so he's able to use that power to bring that out of the mud. Now, if you look at the name Yoda, it seems as though George Lucas has also derived that name from the Veda and the Vedic literature as well. The Y-O in Yoda could have been derived from the word yoga or yogi, which means a person established in yoga. Yoga means union of the individual consciousness with universal consciousness. And Da is the last syllable of the word Veda, which I just mentioned before, means knowledge or light.
Michael, thank you for sharing that. Matt, this morning when I said to you I was listening to a podcast of Dr. Richard Allen Miller, the last one that we had, he was talking about Da. And Da is, and I'm only quoting him, I don't know this is his words. Da is if you were running through a forest and you jumped across a stream and you knew that there was a rock in the middle of the stream and you landed on the rock and then jumped off it across the stream. That rock in the stream is Da, the stepping stone of enlightenment that you knew was there, that you used to progress forward.
To go from one bank of the river to the other. And so, yes, that's another thing, another step to give you further knowledge, to be able to give you the abilities that you want to have. So the word Yoda could be a derivation of the words yogi and Veda. So yogi, established in Veda. In other words, a rishi. A yogi who is established in perfection. In other words, he has full knowledge and access to the Veda, which is structured in consciousness. And in that way, he is able to teach Luke Skywalker all the Jedi powers, and all the other Jedis, he was able to teach them as well.
Now, Michael, in regards to Transcendental Meditation, you have spoken many times about, and the only way I can express it, and I know you'll do a better job of it, is that attention, energy flows where attention goes.
Yes. Yeah.
And that's the same of size matters not.
Exactly.
Sorry, Matt, what is it?
Size matters not. Judge me by my size.
And
well, you should not, for my ally is the Force. That's the quote from the movie.
That is the quote from them. I was also thinking along the lines of do or do not. So if you're going to do, think it, and then do it.
Exactly.
Yes, Michael?
And when he said,
elaborate on that, Michael, because you know more about it than I do.
When he said, I'll try, yes.
In one of the areas of Vedic literature, it's called Purva Mimamsa Sutras. Purva, P-U-R-V-A. Mimamsa, M-I-M-A-N-S-A. And then Sutra, S-U-T-R-A. It means the threads of earlier knowledge. And in there's this great quote about what Clint was mentioning about doing big things and thinking that you may not be able to have the ability to do that. This quote goes as follows: There can be no great action without the association of the great forces of nature. However, this does not apply to subsidiary action. In other words, if you have a great goal and you think, oh, I can't do that, nonetheless, if you just start, then the laws of nature will see that, okay, you got this goal, you may not be able to do it on your own, either because maybe your abilities or skills are not up to the task, or the goal is so big it needs more people to help you. And so the laws of nature, as long as you put the intention out there and you make some kind of physical start, the laws of nature will assemble amongst themselves and assemble all the powers of nature to bring your goal into fruition.
Beyond 3 D.
And that's how the whole universe was created in the first place, by Brahma, the creator, who actually had the intention before the universe came about. He said, I am one, I want to be many. And there's another quote from the Vedas which goes, Prakritim swam avastabhya, Vishrijami puna puna, Bhutam gramam imam kritstam avasham prakrita vashat. And the way that is translated is, curving back on myself, I create again and again this multitude of beings under the regime of nature. And so it just gives an insight into the way Brahma operates, that he just has the intention and this multitude of beings are created, curving back on myself. In other words, he had to transcend. And they say he had 3 tries at making creation. And the first 2 tries did not work out that well. And that's why we got the dinosaurs, these huge monstrous creatures that existed. They were life forms, but then they weren't, the beautiful life forms like the birds that apparently are now descended from the dinosaurs. They look a lot better than having the dinosaurs running around eating everybody. And so Brahma's 3rd try, even Brahma, the creator, had to transcend. Actually, when he made these mistakes, he went back to, Mother Divine and said, what have I done wrong? And she said, you need to transcend. So even the creator had to do, the version of Transcendental Meditation as it was at that time. He had to transcend himself to go to the basis of the energy of the universe. So he had the right knowledge, coherence, and skills to be able to create the universe as we now know it, which is a bit more friendly than what it was at the time of the dinosaurs. In terms of Transcendental Meditation, where anyone can sort of access this level of energy and knowledge that Brahma was accessing, one can practice a technique of meditation. What I enjoy the most is Maharishi Mahesh Yogi, who used to consult with the Beatles. He founded Transcendental Meditation in India in 1955, and it's now available worldwide. And there are 4 main benefits of Transcendental Meditation, as you can see in more detail from our website, tm.org or tm.org.au. First main benefit is improving one's mental potential, increasing coherence in one's own consciousness. Many health professionals say that we're only using between 2 and 10% of our full mental potential. Einstein said he was only using 20% of his, and look what he was able to achieve.
I prefer to use yours.
So we're only using 2 to 10% of our full mental potential. And so if we practice Transcendental Meditation, that allows deeper levels of the mind to open up, to allow more neurons, that so-called junk DNA that we're not using. It allows those areas of our mind and our physiology to open up, and so that we've got more access to those levels. And so we're able to increase our mental potential to that 100%, and so we can enjoy more areas of our life, mentally, emotionally, socially, and create world peace.
And it comes back again to that whole intent, having the intent. So when you put the intent out there to the universe, and you thank the universe for something it hasn't given you yet, you're generating that opportunity to happen, aren't you?
Yes, that's right, yes.
It's like that I was talking to Matt about it earlier, that Latin word abracadabra, which translates to I create as I speak. That's what the Latin word for abracadabra.
I create what I speak.
I create what I speak.
Yes.
So your words and your thoughts are very incredibly powerful, and
yes.
With Transcendental Meditation, it can be a very powerful way to change your life.
Yes, and it's always good to have positive thoughts. If we have negative thoughts, then not only does it affect us, but it affects all those around us. There's another great quote in the Vedic literature which goes, Sahanav avatu, sahanav punaktu, saha viryam karavavahai, tejasvinav adhitamastu, mavidvishavahai. And what that translates to is, let us be together, let us eat together, let us be radiating the truth, radiating the light of life. Never shall we denounce anybody, never entertain any negativity. So in that way, even the Vedas in the Akashic record, it gives us some guidelines with respect to how to evolve more smoothly, more quickly, like that.
Question. The Veda records, how many, what are we talking, chapters or
Verses.
How many verses, Michael, for our listeners who are not as familiar with it?
Oh, one area of the Vedic literature is called the Srimad, S-R-M-I-D, S-R-I-M-A-D, Srimad Devi, D-E-V-I, Bhagavatam, B-H-A-G-A-V-A-T-A-M. It's one area of the Vedic literature. It's got 18,000 verses.
No. Sorry.
It's got about 18,000 verses just in it.
That's insane.
If you got all the Veda and Vedic literature and got it all translated into English, it would fill up about 2 lounge rooms. It's a voluminous record. And that brings us to the second level of benefit of Transcendental Meditation, to do with the subsidiary Veda of Rig Veda, which is to do with health, or Ayurveda. Ayur means life, Veda means knowledge, so knowledge of life. So because of the close connection between the mind and the body, if one is able to relax the mind, to increase coherence and relaxation and reach deeper levels of the mind, because the mind and the body are so deeply connected, as the mind is de-stressed, as the mind relaxes, then so also does the body relax and de-stress. And as we know, stress is a major cause of illness. So if you can reduce stress, you can not only get rid of illness, but increase the chance of not getting illness again by increasing the strength of one's immunity. The immune system becomes stronger.
Matt, you are well versed in Transcendental Meditation. Do you have anything you'd like to contribute to tonight's show?
Well, it's interesting what Michael is saying about Ayurveda. I was at Dadar Station, Elphinstone in Mumbai, and I went to an Ayurvedic physician, and I can categorically state that it was one form of medicine that works. At least it worked for me, and it was just about instantaneous. The question I did want to ask you, because I just looked at it, Graham Hancock made a statement that Kali Yuga was about to end in 2025.
No.
You are a Vedic astrologer. Therefore, that is why I ask you the question, do you agree with that, or do you disagree, and why?
No, unfortunately. The present age that we're in, which is the worst of the 4 ages, is called Kali Yuga, K-A-L-I. Yuga, Y-U-G-A, means age. Kali is the age of Kali, which is, it's sort of a very confrontational force.
Confrontational time.
That started 5,000 years ago,
Yep.
when Krishna left this earth after the events of the Bhagavad Gita played out. He left at the age of 36, and that's when Kali Yuga started. The age of Kali Yuga goes for 432,000 years, and we're 5,000 years into it, and it ends in 427,000 years' time. However, because humanity has got free will, we are the only creatures that have got free will. All the other creatures do not have free will. They sort of behave according to their instinct. And so what Maharishi did in 1959, he met with Mother Divine, the creator, the ultimate creator of the universe. And he said, I have a desire to bring a mini Sat Yuga. Sat Yuga is the best of all the yugas. I wish to bring this Sat Yuga. Mother Divine said, humanity is doomed. You won't be able to do it. However, I will give you 50 years to do that. And so Maharishi spent a lot of time being a rishi. He's able to do the job of 200 people at the same time. And so he's brought about a transformation in world consciousness. If you look at the actual history of the last 5 or 6 decades since he started in 1955, wars have actually decreased. There's more consciousness, there's more of people being awake to what's going on. There's, people are more respectful in general around the world of each other. There's multiculturalism, people respect other cultures. And Nostradamus said in the year 2000, there was going to be a nuclear war, things are going to be decimated. It didn't happen. And so we regard...
Hang on a sec, we're still in that period of time though.
We're creating like a moonlight in darkness. It's not a full Sat Yuga, but what Maharshi's created, he said, should last for about 10,000 years. And so we're creating a mini golden age in the midst of a background dark age. And that's why we're enjoying the life as we are around the world at the moment. And we feel as though it's due to Maharshi's influence over the last 50 years by creating 5 million meditators, 50,000 teachers of Transcendental Meditation around the world, 100,000 advanced practitioners of siddhis, as Matt mentioned, these people who have perfections, and these people who do yogic flying, practice yogic flying in large groups. We have large groups in India, US, Europe, and especially in Latin America. We have thousands of groups there. So, and that's the fourth area, to create world peace. One of the goals of Transcendental Meditation, to create world peace, and that's what these large groups are doing. And the third area of Transcendental Meditation is to improve one's relationships with others, so your social network is more coherent, and so one gets along better with one's peers on a local level and on a global level with world peace, creating world peace.
A lot of interesting information there, and quite frankly, I think it's... Clint said he might want to do that, so I think we're going to leave it there for now, but what I will do is invite Michael back another time, because there's too much information, once again, that we have to give you the time to be able to express yourself properly, and being that we have a time constraint here, that's just the way it goes.
I know, and I dislike that.
It's a pain in the butt.
We run out of time every week.
It's a pain in the butt, but this is what we're going to have to do. So, Michael, thank you for the information you've given us, and we're going to invite you back again so we can talk on different subjects and different topics, because when you get into the Vedas and you start talking about it, anything that's going on in the world right now, there's a correlation in the Vedas, as you well know. So
yes,
thank you.
Yes.
Thank you very much, and we will be in touch again.
My pleasure. tm.org, tm.org.au.
Thanks, Michael.
For more information.
Thank you.
My pleasure.
Beyond 333 D.
I really enjoyed listening and learning all about that, Matt, with Transcendental Meditation. For me, it's something that I've only been aware of in the last probably 18 months.
Yeah.
So
it's a fantastic program that was set up, and the thing is, information was hidden from the Western societies. A lot of the Indian masters came over in the 1920s. A lot of them came in the 1940s, and the 1950s, and the 1970s. The information is out there. It's just a matter of people getting out there, getting that information, and practicing.
But see, back then, the majority of the populace wasn't open.
Yeah,
mentally,
there were
spiritually.
Little pockets of people would get together, like the Benares Society in the 1920s in New York City, that really studied meditation, studied the health aspects behind it, the proper food. See, I'll show this to you. I have my great uncle was Ramakrishna, and I have the cookbook from the 1920s on what the human being was supposed to have as far as dietary concerns.
You are what you eat.
You are what you eat, and believe me, it's a very interesting book, and no, it's not out anymore. It's my great uncle's copy. It's fantastic to look at, and the meals were really, really good in it.
Cool. That's today's show.
Indeed, it is. So thank you all for listening out there. We will return next week with another edition of Beyond 3D. Clint and I have a lot of work to do, because there's a whole lot of interviews that we have to conduct, and we're going to be bringing you some really great information, so stay tuned for that.
And I've got the wish list in front of me for 2016, and it looks very exciting.
It's going to be fantastic. So take care, guys. We'll catch you next week.
Be good. Just because you haven't experienced it doesn't mean it doesn't exist.